that. There are moments where I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. But I'm like, why would I believe that I can't believe this is happening, right? Because I'm the person that's making it happen.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Meller, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. My guest is organizational consultant Sonia Daniels. And Sonia likes to focus on where you are, what it is you want, and what it is that needs to happen, all in service of ensuring that you're ready for any and all growth. And welcome back to the most recent installment of Growth Ready, the Growth Ready podcast. I am so excited to be keeping things local on this episode of the show. I don't get enough Baton Rouge-based people on the show, but today I'm so fortunate to be welcoming in Miss Sonia Daniels. Sonia, first and foremost, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. It's Monday. I'm excited. I have a lot of energy, so just ready to jump into a great
Beautiful,
week.
beautiful. So as I ask everybody now in this newer format of the show, to start us off, Sonia, what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
Oh, that's such a good question. So for me in this season of life, being growth ready means just showing up as my full, most authentic self. Really believing that I'm capable of all the things that I want to accomplish in my life. And just showing up and constantly meeting all of those goals, achieving those goals, and then setting new goals for myself. So just always on a quest to accomplish all of the things I desire.
Love it. Already, like 3 or 4 things out of that one response, I'm just like desperate to dive into. And the first thing that came out of you
Yeah.
was the season of life. And I think that is such an interesting word that doesn't get used enough, because that's what life is, right? It's just one season after another, after
Yeah.
another, after another. So talk to me about just the importance of simply seeing your process from that perspective of the season mindset, so to speak. What does it mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So good question. So for me, looking at life in seasons makes life feel a lot easier and simpler, right? I think a lot of times as humans, we have a tendency of looking at things long term or grouping things together. But for me, having a seasonal perspective on life makes it easy to just adjust as needed to the things that are coming my way right now. I tell a lot of people sometimes I take life hour by hour. So not to overwhelm myself or not to have too much stress about, what the future holds or what tomorrow holds, but then not also spending too much time focusing on the past because we can't, go back and change that. So for me, I try to be mindful of where am I in life? What do I want for myself right now? And how do I make those things happen? And then when the next season comes, I adjust as needed. And so whether that's me doing something differently than I'm doing now, I'll allow myself to be open to that new season, whatever that brings. And so it just makes me not be stressed out or feel anxious about all of the things that life brings my way.
So we've already got a nice little formula too, which I appreciate. Like that, where am I? What do I want? And then what needs to happen? And this allows us just to kind of step a little bit into what it is you're doing in the work that you do today in your role as a consultant, because I think what's so important that it never gets discussed enough, especially I think about my world of coaching, your world of consulting, is that ability just as opposed to us inserting our view and our version of reality into this other person's, experience that they're going through, to actually find a way to see it from their perspective and find a way to step into what they're actually experiencing. So talk to me a little bit about how you do that with clients in your work. Like here you are talking about the importance for you. Where am I? What do I want? And what needs to happen? What might that process look like when you step into another person's world?
Yeah. So what's very interesting is that we design, so a lot of our work centers around strategy for organizations. And so because we've been doing this work for so long, we actually designed our own strategic planning framework. And the beauty of the framework that we developed is that sometimes I actually use that own framework in my own life to like strategize around what I want my life to look like. And so because I'm able to do it both professionally and personally, when we work with clients who are in spaces where they're just not sure what's next for them or what's next for the organization, I'm able to actually help them on both sides of like the business side of like, what do you want this business to look like in the next, month or the next 3 months or next year? But then on the personal side, what things are you struggling with or what roadblocks are you experiencing as the leader of this organization that might stop you from getting to where you want the organization to be? And so because we have that approach from both sides, we're actually able to be more successful when we're helping our clients navigate change management. Because change management is just not a business thing, it's really more so of a people thing because the people in the business have to be able to, be comfortable and understand what needs to happen next in order to accept that change, and then execute it or implement on it. So that's our approach, and that's what helps me, but also helps the clients as well.
Yeah, change management is a people thing. I love that. It's
That's a lot. Yeah.
I gotta say from experience straight away, like I don't think we do a great job with it. I think we struggle. Change.
Mhm.
There's a lot of folks
Mhm.
out there that insist, hey, I adapt to change. I understand change, and
Mhm.
I think I would always push back on those people and say, well, maybe you're just not demanding enough change. Then, if it's coming easy to
Yes.
you, you're
Yep.
not demanding enough. So I would love to almost,
Yeah.
just go back here in time a little with me and just say, okay, when you think about
Mhm.
your growth journey and how you've eventually arrived at this decision to commit to this business, etc. But in the years coming up to that, how did your growth journey allow you to learn the lesson of everything that you're speaking to here, in the sense of, finding that clarity around what it is you want, but most importantly, the power of that? Like, when did you first sort of notice how that could be of service to you?
Yeah. Ooh, so this is good. So for me, there were a lot of different experiences that happened, and not only in life, but also in career that got me to the point of wanting to work for myself. And so I will say I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew I wanted the autonomy over my career. And so prior to starting the business, there were a lot of instances that happened where I might have had jobs that just weren't flexible to like the realities of being an adult, right? Of like having responsibilities or needing to take time off from work. And so when that kept happening more often, I really got to a point of like, I need to step in and take control of my own life, regardless of what that looks like. And so the beginning stages of the business were very kind of just like I was unsure. I didn't know of like what I needed to do next, but I knew I wanted to create a path for myself. I didn't even realize consulting was like this whole industry. I just knew that people were calling me to work on projects. So I kind of went through this freelance phase before I got to the point of actually establishing, functioning business entity. And so in those early stages for me, I was just all about autonomy. Like I wanted to be able to take off from work and not have to ask permission. I wanted to be able to work on projects that really felt meaningful to me and not be boxed in to like certain roles or certain positions. Um, and so all of that really shifted me into a phase where I was like, okay, got to figure out how this business stuff works. And here we are 7 years later, having a really, I'm having fun is what I can really say when people ask me about the business. But the business is doing really well. And I'm grateful that I took a lot of time to be really introspective about what I wanted the business to look like, what culture I wanted to create for the people who work with me. And so that same autonomy I desire for myself, I also give that to my staff as well. So when we talk about like people taking time off, I'm like, don't ask me for permission. If you have something that's a priority, like take care of what you need to take care of, the work will be here. But all of that is a testament to the work that I did on myself and the growth that I experienced in becoming, the owner of a business. So,
It's really, and I appreciate all that. Thank you. And it's just
Mhm.
I think it's so important to as you're explaining this for people to hear it really clearly is you're not speaking to the importance of, hey, everyone should become a business owner. That's not what you're saying at all. I
No.
hear I hear your ability just to be able to identify, like, hey, where life was presenting a lack of flexibility or greater difficulties for you, you wanted to find solutions to that. And it just so happened in your world specifically, it made sense because of what your world was telling you to step into business ownership. To your point, like at first it wasn't true full out business ownership, it was more just freelance. And through that, you started to see like, oh, this could be the path towards greater flexibility, less difficulties. But again, that's your journey, that's your story. This isn't about becoming a business owner. It's about you doing that. And I love that word, introspective, like doing that introspection and saying like, hey, what's good for Sonia right now? And what do I need right now? So that's really what I'm hearing from that story, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I actually, this is going to sound really ironic, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do not encourage people to start businesses because it's a lot of work. Like that's the reality of it. But and I can only speak to that, of course, being 7 years into business. But I do feel like people have to really um understand what their motives and intentions are if they are interested in being in this space. But to your point, like you mentioned, which was a great way to really define it, is that it was just something that just so happened to match what I was needing in that season of life. And I will say I'm not sure business ownership is something that will be my thing forever. But it works really well for where I am right now in life, right? And so maybe there's another season that might come where I might decide to like pack this all up and then move on and do something different. But again, just being able to understand what makes sense for me is what I tend to prioritize.
What I really want to do now is I want to get into this notion of change management. And because so much of what we're about on this show is how can we serve people through growth, but at the same time, how can we help them believe that they are in fact ready for growth? Like that is the big one. That typically in my world of coaching, and I'm curious to learn about your world of consulting, like typically we get in our own way when it comes to just simply convincing ourselves, yes, we're ready. We can do this. So when it comes to change management, I'm curious, where do you start? Where do you typically start with folks? And I understand that everyone's probably slightly different, but what might be some of those initial questions that you're trying to get people to ask themselves through that initial process?
Yeah. So generally, when we have an initial conversation with someone, we do what's called as a discovery call, our discovery phase. And so in that phase is really us spending time assessing and evaluating where the organization is, but also really doing some deep diving into the people that work in that organization. Because again, organizations are a collective of people, right? And so if the people are not doing great, the organization won't do great. I mean, that's just kind of, common knowledge. And so we really spend a lot of time trying to understand who the decision makers are in the organization, how do they show up in their work, what is the dynamic within the office, are there challenges within the office, right? So, for example, just last week I had a discovery conversation, and I learned that because there's essentially like 4 different generations within the office, there's a lot of like tension within the office, which makes sense, right? And so if the people problems are not fixed, then the organization is going to continue to suffer because of the dynamic of different generations being in one setting. And so when we discover how the people show up in the organization, we're able to really provide an intervention or a solution that helps everyone be in alignment. And so a lot of times, and it's so funny, I'm not a therapist at all, but a lot of times I feel like I'm a therapist because a lot of our conversations are literally asking people, do you feel capable in your job? Like, do you believe in yourself enough to show up and do a good job? Are you capable? Do you believe you're capable of like being good at whatever it is that you want to be good at? And so a lot of times what we discover is that people just have their own roadblocks to progress that affect the overall success of the organization. So in our change management services that we offer, we spend a lot of time with teams and with individuals to help them really believe they're good at what they do so that they can be better at the job that they're hired to do. So that's generally what that initial process looks
Yeah,
like.
something that you said there that I would love to get some personal experience on from you is that notion of, are you capable? You know, when you talk about change and to look at someone and just, while you may know and they may know what it is, you know, you're trying to change and what ideal looks like and what you're trying to move toward, you know, where when did you maybe first realize, or when might have a moment been, let's say, in your life where you think, okay, when I go back to that moment, there's no way I thought I was capable. However, for whatever reason, you still made the jump, or you still took the step. I'd love to just get some insight around that.
I there's been a lot of instances in my life where I have accomplished a lot of things, but ultimately didn't feel worthy of those things. So, like, one story I share with people is that when I graduated from college with my PhD, I went back to work the same day. Like, I didn't go to celebrate, like, I didn't do anything to really celebrate that achievement. Like, I literally went right back to work and pretended it didn't happen. And so for me, I think that was really a moment where when I think back about that moment, I'm like, there must have been something in me that maybe didn't even allow myself to believe I was worthy of achieving, such a great accomplishment. And so even still today, sometimes in my business, like, we're growing really rapidly. We're at the point of closing like 5-figure deals, if not like every other week at this point. And so even in that, there are moments where I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. But I'm like, why would I believe that I can't believe this is happening, right? Because I'm the person that's making it happen. And so a part of it again was having to do more of your favorite word, introspection, to really like figure out where that was coming from, of like why wasn't I feeling worthy of these things? And so when I sat with that for a while, a part of it was like I didn't believe I was capable of achieving it. And so now that I'm in a space where I really do believe I am my biggest cheerleader. And so now that I'm here in this space, I can provide a better service to our clients because I believe I'm capable of achieving great things. So I'm able to really build a culture of success because I believe in myself. I believe in my team members, but I also believe in my clients as well. So it really started with me doing a lot of the work to get to a better mental space, or improve my mindset and the way I think about the way I show up in the world. And so, yeah, it started with graduating with my third degree and still not believing, I deserved it. So that was a lot of work that had to be done.
I think you just related to our audience more than you can imagine. Like, and to me too. I mean,
Yeah.
now if I'm going to be honest here and step into the truth of what you're saying, I deal with the same thing. You know, you find yourself saying something along the lines of, "I can't believe that I," and that is just such a wonderful way of saying it. What you said there is, why would I believe that I can't believe, so like that's the question that we need to be asking, because, you can't spell worthy without worth. And so much of what you're saying around worthy, I'm just like, yeah, you got to know your worth. You got to believe your worth. You got to really buy into it. And there's no point trying to sell somebody else on your worth if you don't buy it. If you're not the first person that's saying like,
Exactly.
hey, I want to invest in this thing and this thing that is me, right? That's what we're talking about here. You're not talking about, this skill that you do or this way that you can maybe provide a service. We're just talking about our own worth and how we just say like, hey, I am worthy. Like, I believe in my worth. I believe in my value. And like I said, I think you're just relating to a lot of people right now as you say that. And how have you found the best way is to just maybe even approach that on a day-to-day basis? Because I have to assume it kind of creeps its way in on a day-to-day basis, sometimes in micro form, but sometimes in, tell us a little bit about the day-to-day challenge with that.
Yeah. Oh, so I do. So right now, what my daily practices look like is a lot of meditation and breath work. And so in the meditation, sometimes the meditation might be listening to affirmations that literally say like, I am worthy, I believe I deserve good things. Like, and I know it sounds very simple, but being able to train our brain to understand what that means, I think it's a game changer for me. I'll definitely say. And so usually my day starts off with like going for a morning walk in the park. And while I'm walking, I'll listen to those affirmations just to really help jumpstart my day and get me on the right track. And a lot of that too also means like being mindful of like the things I tell myself or the things that I say to other people. So like taking the word can't out of my vocabulary has been really big. And just the way my life has transformed. Um, Trying new things has also been great as well. Because what it does is that it takes you out of that like thought process of I'm not capable of doing this thing. Well, have you tried it? You know, and you can try anything once, and if you don't like it, then at least you tried it. You know, and so a lot of my time consists of maybe doing something that makes me uncomfortable. I tend to be more introverted, and so sometimes I'll literally force myself to go to events. Like I do a lot of solo events because it forces me outside of that comfort zone. I went to Live After Five Friday by myself. And it was a lot, but I had a great time and I met great people. And so a lot of it is just, getting outside of those negative thoughts we tend to tell ourselves, and really catching it in that moment. And then once you get that negative thought, essentially like reframing it in a way that acknowledges like, yes, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so that is what life has been looking like, just really catching those thoughts when they happen, then reframing it for myself.
Something that's one thing I will say is that's why I love when I have someone from Baton Rouge is you'll just make like a nonchalant comment about something that happens here locally, and anybody that's not from Baton Rouge,
Yeah.
what the heck is Live After Five? But
Right.
I appreciate it. It's just like, hey, you know what, guys? It's just a place where people gather to hang out and listen to some music. That's what it is. That's all it is. So, but I will say the idea that's coming through here is this notion like when you know something that serves you, just put yourself in there, like get in there, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how much resistance you may feel on the way in, just know that on the way out, chances are you are going to feel better for having done it. And I'm hearing that, like you clearly have this desire just to keep saying, hey, Sonia, every part of you doesn't want to do this, or you don't want to be in this in terms of, whatever comes natural. But there's that part of you that's always saying, but what's good for me right now? Like, so you said train the brain. Like, so you must be. How long have you been training this brain to sort of speak on behalf of yourself like this now?
Oh, it's very recent. So I would say since probably early summer. So early summer, I hired a life coach because I was at a point where I was like, I don't enjoy where my life is right now. And so as professional, right, as a consultant, I tell organizations all the time, if you can't do this work, hire somebody to help you do it. And so for me, life is not any different, right? So like, for example, if something happens with my car, I'm not going to fix it. I'm not a professional mechanic. I'm going to hire a mechanic to do it. And so when I got to a point in life where I just wasn't enjoying things, I was like, let me hire a professional who can walk me through these things. And so basically in the summer, I really zoned in on doing a lot of self work. She helped me develop like a value system and really understand like what is it that I wanted life to look like. And so as a result of that, we were really able to kind of like design what I would consider my ideal life. And so now that I have a vision of it, I know what I need to do to work towards that. Oh, this is all very new, right? But I think a part of that also is like, I recognize that even though in life there might be things I don't want to do, I still have the privilege of being able to do them. So for example, like working out every day, like, do I enjoy it every day? No, not really. But I'm grateful that I'm healthy enough to go walk for, a mile and a half every morning. I'm grateful that I'm able to do Pilates and yoga and all these things where I can move my body because I know that there are people who are wishing that they had the ability to do those things. And so for me, I try to just really take advantage of all the privileges I do have in life and not let them pass me by just because I don't want to do it, in that one moment. So that is really like how I function, and that's my
I
philosophy.
just, I'm thankful that you were able to share this with us because as you said, like the 7 years into business, and people would hear that, you know, if they weren't to listen any further and they stopped listening at that point of the episode, okay, you've been doing this for 7 years, you've been figuring this out as you go, you've been getting stronger and stronger, more, clearer and clearer as you go, and then here you are in year 7, and for whatever reason you're looking at life and saying, I've lost myself in some way, shape, or form. I got to work on me. Like for whatever reason, that North Star that seemed super clear for 5 or 6 years didn't seem as clear at that moment in your life. And you're able to stop and acknowledge and just say, hey, you know, something's off and I need someone who is an expert in this area of this thing called life and be able to coach me through it a little bit. And I just want to, I appreciate your vulnerability with that because I think this is where we can potentially fall into the trap with some of these, you know, personal development, professional development kind of podcasts is where sometimes it can seem like, hey, we're here to tell you like, hey, this is how you become awesome at something. And this is the only way to be awesome and all this kind of stuff. And you're telling us like, hey, you know what? Maybe somebody else was able to figure it out and have no roadblocks and no issues or whatever. But I'm telling you, my version of growth, it's always evolving. Sometimes it's really clear, and then sometimes it just ain't that clear. Sometimes it's really, really difficult. And so, you know, speaking to that difficulty, I have to assume, and working through it as well, I have to assume must have now put you in a position that is, I mean, I'm just going to ask you, like, how do you feel now having gone through that process recently in the last few months?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and I will say to your point, things are not always clear, right? So I know when I verbalize it, I might make it sound like I have it all figured out. That's not the case at all because the reality of life is that every day we wake up, something new pops up, and now we have to figure out how to manage it. Being an adult is very interesting. I know kids all the time are like, "Oh, I can't wait to be an adult," and I'm like, "No, slow down just a little bit." No. And so because I recognize that life doesn't always, I guess, like happen the way we envision it, I give myself not only flexibility but grace. Like when a new situation comes up and I don't know how to manage it, or like maybe it might be new for me, I allow myself to trust myself enough to make some decision, whether or not other people understand it, but I allow myself to make a decision to move forward, right? And then there may be times where I make a decision that maybe it doesn't make sense in retrospect, but at least I have learned this lesson, and now if it happens again, then now I know how to approach it. And so I think for the most part, I just don't allow myself to be like stagnant or complacent when things come up. I just figure out how to move through it and then really, focus on whatever that lesson was so that next time I have a better approach to it.
Yeah, we're going all the way back now to really where we started on the season of life, and to be able to just have that outward perspective of like, hey, what's happening to me right now? What am I going through right now? What's this experience teaching me right now? And to step into that introspection too, off the back of that. That's kind of what I'm hearing too. Is like it's not as simple as just making a note or being aware of this stuff. It's then asking like, okay, so what do I think about that? Like, what now that I've collected this information and I'm aware of this, like, what do I think about that? Like, and how is that either supporting me or hurting me at this point as well? And I'd love for you to speak into now just some of the belief component. We touched on that a little earlier, but I really want to dive just a little deeper into that here. Is that when you talk about belief, like firstly, that when you think about Sonia and she's in absolute belief of what she's doing, what does that feeling feel like to you? Like how is the mind working for you and all this kind of stuff? Like speak to us just through your experience of what it means to be in belief.
Yes. So for me, what it feels like is that there is this unwavering trust that I have that I'm able to make a decision or move forward on something without feeling the need to like ask for advice or perspective on something. And essentially it's based on the knowledge that I have in this moment. That's why I talked about, the retrospective piece as well, because that is something to take into account. But yes, when I have just this unwavering, belief in myself, it feels just like the ability to move forward without having too many like questions about something in terms of like, do I need to go to someone to get advice on this? Should I consider X, Y, and Z? In most cases, I'm like, let me just make a quick decision on it, trust the process, move forward, and then adjust as necessary. So that's typically my cycle of how I move through life with just like trusting
Yeah,
myself.
trusting myself. How long does it take to trust yourself?
Some days, some days it's quick, other days it's not. So
Yeah, and I think, but again, the obviously you do this for a living in the sense of sitting down with people and talking about processes and what works for them, what doesn't work for them, etc. And what I will say that I'm hearing is this idea that even when that trust may not seem as great as it does sometimes, and when that belief doesn't seem as clear as you would typically like it to be, it sounds as though you're very reliant on a process. And it's like, hey, as long as I have this process and this way of doing life, there's going to be days where it isn't working for me. But if I continue to remain committed to what this version of, how Sonia shows up and has the ability to be at her best, no matter the circumstances, can you just live with those moments a little easier because you have that formula, that way of doing things?
definitely, definitely. And there are parts of me, I'll be honest, Steve, there are parts of me where I still worry about like, am I going to disappoint someone or like, will this be a bad decision? But I'm also in the space where I would rather make a decision than not make one at all. And if someone's disappointed in the process, then I manage that on the back end. And of course, it's not my like, I don't go into situations hoping to disappoint people, but I think it's just the nature of like the human experience, right? But yeah, I would rather make a decision than to not make one at all and then like ruminate on why I didn't make a decision. So for me, it's all about like, to be honest, what keeps my nervous system the most regulated is really what my approach is.
Keeps my nervous system the most regulated. I mean, talk about coming back to the human element, though. I mean, that's so great. It's great to be
Yeah.
that way. Like, because again, you can look at all the science you want in the world, but the one thing you cannot avoid is the fact that we are emotional beings. Like, we are so heavily emotional. Like, it's insane. The ratio of emotion to rational is
Yeah.
just rational has no chance. Rational has
There's
no
no
chance.
balance.
It's
Yeah.
pure emotion. So being
Yeah.
able to just say, like, there's this version of me. It's like, can I just tap into me and know deep down, like, hey, I'm about as neutral as I can be right now, or I'm as in control. It's kind of something else I'm hearing too. It's like I'm as in control as I can be, to where whatever the result,
Yes.
I can have a greater level of acceptance around it. Like I'm really hearing that.
Yes. For sure. And what's interesting is making the connection between the personal and the professional. The reality of running a business is that no one is going to save me in terms of like running this business, right? Like, this is all on me. My employees depend on me for their payroll, and I can't make any excuses about that. My clients depend on me to get the job done. And so I think business ownership has taught me how to have more ownership of myself because there's no one coming to save me from whatever decisions I make in my life. And I have to be okay with that. So I think that's also part of like that trust myself component as well, is that like it's literally on me to figure it out. There's no one, here to come swoop in and like save me from myself. So I think that's just human nature as well.
Those are the moments, right, when that system that you've created for yourself, like that's where it can serve you so great, when you step into the reality, like no one's coming to save me right now. And I love that you took us there, because I think the more we can step into the reality, the truth of all of our situations, I think a lot of us have those people in our lives where, maybe it's a close friend, it's a spouse, it's a whatever, it's a sibling, it's a parent, whatever it might be. Like, that they're going to be there for you were you to go through something. But this idea of saving you, if things in your specific role, whether you are an employee, a business owner, whatever it is, wherever you lay in the career side of things, chances are those people, as supportive as they can be, they probably can't save you. And that is a truth. That is a reality that we need to get way more comfortable with, because it's going to push you to create this system. Like you said, it's going to give you that, hey, if no one's saving me, then I got to support myself. I got to find a way to create this system that is reliable enough to get me through some of that stuff. And so how is that, as you know, I'd love to learn, like, adversity wise, when you think about the 7 years. I mean, there's no denying that you've had some adversity. Shoot, it's 2:00 on a Monday. Maybe you've had adversity today. Chances are, if you're anything like me. But I'm just curious, like, adversity, how has that system served you through the adversities of business ownership?
Yeah, so I'll share some of the challenges that have come up, even just like you mentioned today. So I am a first generation entrepreneur. So I'm the first person in my family to own a business, operate a business. That in itself is like a lot, right? Because I went into this with just no prior knowledge of what this even means to like run a successful business. And so where we are today is just a lot of like learning and taking time to like go to incubators and accelerators to really understand what I signed myself up for. But it's also created a lot of adversity, and just that because I didn't have the knowledge of business ownership, I'm certain that there were a lot of opportunities that were missed out on. Are there probably things that I've done in the business that might have not been great for the business, but again, I didn't know what I didn't know. So that adversity has been a lot. And I think where we are today, again, 7 years in, I feel a lot more confident about being a business owner, despite, being the first in my family. But we're in a great space now, so no complaints about that. But I think also the reality of it too, of like being a young Black woman in business, has also had its fair share of adversity as well. Consulting can tend to be a white male dominated industry. And so coming into this space, and one of the things too that's really interesting is that I appear younger than I am. I'm 37. And so most people don't believe that, which I don't know why. I'm like, I'm 37. But even with that, it's like, because I appear younger, there's a level of trust that I have to build with people so that they feel confident that I'm able to provide them with what they're looking for. So that was something I did not prepare for. And I think I'm just getting to the point of recognizing like what type of challenges come with that. So I would say those are definitely some of the adversities that have existed in my business that I think I'm just coming to a place of learning how to navigate those things. But business is hard. I'm not going to lie about that. Running a successful business is difficult. And the difficult part of it is the being a person in business. Like, that is the difficult part of it. Because we deal with challenging clients. And so it's like learning how to navigate those situations. Every client is so different. I don't have kids, but I can imagine if like people with kids having different kids all have different personalities. Like, managing clients feels like being a parent, because you're managing personalities, people's personalities. So that's really interesting. But I'm really grateful. I can say that we have not run into major issues that have, created challenges in the business in terms of like threatening the business to close or anything of that nature. But I am grateful for my CPA and my attorney. They help us kind of keep things, on track. But I'm very certain that there may be other adversities that we run into that I'm not even prepared for. But luckily, I'm in a space mentally and emotionally where I feel comfortable, like, when those situations come up, how to navigate those situations in a way that makes sense for everybody involved. So that's been the journey so
Beautiful. Oh, yeah,
far.
it's a beautiful journey. Like just listening to you talk
Thank
through it.
you.
Like I think it's something that can inspire,
Thank
something that
you.
people can learn from. And that's what this show's all about at the end of the day. Like I want people to hear the story of Sonia Daniels, and people say, oh shoot, like I hear myself in that story. I can see myself in that. But at the same time, I'm motivated to maybe go get a piece of that for myself as well. And shoot, just based on what you're talking about, based on some of the things that have been in your way, I would hate to be that person that in any way doesn't give you the that, let's say, that gets ready for Sonia Daniels. Let's put it that way, because I think you, based on this conversation alone, have presented a level of value that is clear to me that, hey, whatever the age or anything like that, like, count her out at your peril, folks. Because again, I'm hearing it. I'm just like, this is powerful stuff, and there's no doubt that you're an asset to whoever it is you're working with. So I appreciate all of your insights. And one thing I want to ask you before I let you go is just really, if you were to be speaking to that younger version of yourself, and I want to believe that we have a few folks like that listening to the show, but at the same time, maybe folks that are just interested in taking that step or committing to change or whatever it might be, what might be that just final insight for our listeners of just like, hey, if change is on the horizon, what do they need to know? What do they need to know?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing is being open to change. And so a lot of times that lack of openness is actually fear about the unknown. And so for me, I would encourage people to not be afraid of the unknown, but to reframe it and think about the world of possibilities that exist on the other side. So again, one of my personal philosophies is that I don't think about of like I don't have a mindset of like I'm afraid of what's coming next. My mindset is I'm grateful for the possibilities that exist in the unknown, and so for me, it allows me to have more of a positive outlook on just things that might happen that I'm not prepared for. And so I encourage when we talk about change management, not only in organizations but in people's lives, like be excited about the world of possibilities that exist that we might not know anything about, because it might position us to be completely better off than we are right now. And then I also tell people too, like time is going to pass regardless if we make that change or not. And the most valuable asset we have is time. So once time has passed, we can't get it back. And so I always encourage people, if there's something that you want to do, like take baby steps. You don't have to have it all figured out, but just know that like time will pass regardless if you do it or not. So that is generally why I just jump into things, because I'm like, at least I can start it, even if I don't have it fully figured out. But
I love it. I love it. And just talk about just capturing that unknowns, just possibilities in disguise. I love it. I love it. And so there's no better way to close out than just leaving people with that insight. Sonia, though, let people know where can we learn more about you, find you, access you. All this stuff will be in the show notes, obviously, but tell us where we can all find more about you.
Yeah, so I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. So my name on LinkedIn is Sonia Daniels, PhD MPA. So find me on LinkedIn, and then also please follow my company's page on Instagram. We're at S Daniels Consulting. I love content creation, so we're always posting fun content. But would love to connect with people on either LinkedIn or Instagram.
Well, like I said, it'll all be in the show notes. And Sonia, thank you so much for just the generosity of insight and time, and just best of luck with everything. Knowing I know there's awesome things on the horizon for you, so just appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you having me. I just love being able to share just about my journey and my life stories. I appreciate you having me on your platform.
And my thanks again to Sonia for joining us on the show. Awesome conversation. Love getting to highlight some of the great people that we have here in Baton Rouge doing what they're doing in their respective industries. Something I have to bring our attention back to was just the way Sonia explained, why would I believe that I can't believe? How often are you asking that question, huh? I mean, so often we are saying sentences that start with, I can't believe that, fill in the blank. When do you want to ask why you can't believe? And what might you learn about yourself by simply asking a powerful question like that? If I were to just get honest with me, here I am presenting a show on growth mindset, what it means to be ready for everything that comes with growth. And I am guilty of this too. So while I'm trying to live this life of growth, this mindset that allows me to consider everything, remain curious of what could happen if I were to commit to this and this, I too question and somehow have this lack of, to use Sonia's word, I don't think I'm worthy of the success. And when we don't put that value on ourselves, we don't even recognize when we are successful. You know, and it's almost sad, right? It's sad to go through the success cycle and come out the other end and not see the value and not recognize that you achieved what you achieved because you did the damn work. So there's no reason. It's not about belief. There's nothing to believe at that point. You did it. It's a truth. It's a reality at that point. So to just simply take a minute and think, how often am I saying to myself, I can't believe this, I can't believe that? Well, what is it that you need to do and figure out so that you can believe? And that instead of making it a factor of belief, it's simply just about what you did and why you got it done. Let's all agree and commit to working on that, yeah? I think if we do that, we're all going to be better for it. So I just appreciate Sonia for taking the time to help me see that. And I hope to have helped you see that as well. But hey, folks, keep coming back for more. Subscribe now. Don't take a minute longer to wait. Subscribe to the show. Make sure that you are sharing these kind of episodes. Don't tell me that there's no one in your life right now that couldn't stand to listen in on some of the great insights courtesy of Sonia and courtesy of our time together. Make the effort to share the show. And please, it helps us so much when you leave that 5-star rating, when you leave a review as well. Go one step further. Don't just click the 5th star. Just put in the comments why it is you thought the show really spoke to you and you found it to be so powerful. Best of luck, as always, in anything and everything you've got going on. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.